I never thought I'd live to see the day my own parents would look me in the eye, or worse, not even bother to, and tell me in their calm, composed, guiltless voices that my children, the very ones who carried their blood and bore their name, were no longer welcome in their home. But there I was, standing in my quiet kitchen, mug in hand, warm coffee forgotten, as my mother's voice danced through the phone line with artificial cheer and a sugar-sweet tone that made my skin crawl. "Honey, we need to talk about Thanksgiving this year," she said, and for a split second I let hope in maybe, just maybe, she wanted to mend things. Despite the distance that had stretched between us over the years, despite the subtle digs and silent favoritism, I still yearned for those familiar family traditions, still held on to the belief that maybe my parents saw all of us as equal. I still hoped for the sake of Emma and Lucas, my kids, who adored their grandparents with a blind, innocent love that hadn't yet been tainted by the politics of family. "Of course, Mom. What's the plan?" I asked, already picturing the smell of roasted turkey, the flickering candles, the fake laughter layered over underlying tension. But then she said it's going to be just adults this year. You know, something smaller, more intimate. And just like that, something shifted. "So, no kids?" I asked, a knot beginning to form in my gut. A beat passed. "Well, no, not exactly. Just not your kids." Her voice trailed off, and the silence between us screamed louder than any explosion ever could. I gripped the counter. "What about Daniel's?" I asked, already knowing the answer, but still praying for a miracle. "Daniel and Sophie are coming with their boys," she said, and the excuse followed like a knife. "You know how well-behaved they are, Ally. So calm. So easy." My hands went cold, my breath caught in my throat. "Emma is 7. Lucas is 4. They're not wild animals, they're children." But she didn't want to hear that. She never did. "It's not personal, Ally," she added, and that's when the rage really set in. Because it was personal. It had always been personal. Every missed birthday. Every lopsided Christmas. Every time they showed up for Daniel's kids and had scheduling conflicts when it came to mine. They didn't even pretend anymore. And in that moment, with my mom on the phone and my kids in the next room laughing over a pillow fort, I knew I was done. Done begging. Done explaining. Done trying to win love that should have been freely given. "If my kids aren't welcome, then neither am I," I said, and the silence that followed said it all. "Suit yourself," she replied coldly before hanging up. I stared at the phone, heart pounding, vision blurring. How could the people who raised me so casually cast aside the two most important souls in my life? I walked into the living room, forced to smile as Emma asked about movie night, and swallowed back my rage like poison. That night, I didn't cry. I sat with Liam, my husband, and I told him everything. The next day, I quietly removed my parents from the credit card they'd been using for years, the same one I had added them to back when Dad was recovering and money was tight. I never removed them, and they never reminded me. They just kept using it. But that was over now. No announcement. No drama. Just done. A week passed, then came the expected backlash. Daniel texted me, "Mom says you're overreacting again. Why do you always ruin everything?" I stared at the message, and for once, I didn't bother to justify myself. I simply replied, "She invited your kids, not mine. End of story." He didn't respond. But the silence didn't last long. My mom called again, asking if I could reconsider. Just me and Liam, no kids. I told her once more, clearly and calmly, "If my kids aren't welcome, I'm not coming." She sighed like I was the one being irrational, said I was breaking her heart, and then hit me with the line that shattered any last shred of loyalty I had left. "Daniel's boys mean the world to us. We just want peace." Translation? My children were too loud, too much, too real. I ended the call. No tears this time. Just resolve. When Dad called that weekend for help setting up the new TV, I let it go to voicemail. When Mom texted asking for a prescription pickup, I left it unread. They started to notice. Then Thanksgiving morning came, and with it another call. I picked up, thinking maybe, just maybe, there was remorse. Instead, my mother's voice was cold. "Did you cancel the credit card?" I laughed. You mean my card? She tried to gaslight me. Oh, don't be dramatic, ally. You make good money. What's the big deal? The big deal? Was them excluding my kids while still expecting me to bankroll their lives. I told her I'd never send another cent. She threatened legal action. I said, go ahead. Then I hung up. For the first time in years, Thanksgiving was peaceful. We made pancakes in pajamas, watched movies, built forts, and just laughed. Real joy. Real love. A week later came the legal letter. My parents were trying to bill me for my childhood. $78,542. Itemized. Food, clothes, school, everything. I stared at the paper, laughed so hard I cried, then drove straight to their house, ripped it in half in front of them, and said, take me to court. I dare you. Their expressions? Priceless. But they didn't stop. Christmas Eve, they showed up on my doorstep, arms full of gifts, plastered on smiles, acting like nothing had happened. Let's be a family again, Mom said. I told her we already were one, just not with them. I shut the door in their faces. But they weren't done. New Year's Eve, they ambushed me again, this time with Daniel and his wife. They had talked to a lawyer. Were exploring grandparents' rights. Said I was hurting the kids by keeping them away from their real family. I laughed in their faces. Try me, I said, holding up my phone. I've got everything documented. Every message. Every demand. Every time you told me my children weren't enough. Try me. They backed down. Because they knew. And finally, they disappeared. No calls. No texts. No more pretending. No more games. Just quiet. Beautiful, healing quiet. And in that silence, I found peace. I watched my kids play in the spring sun, bubbles floating through the air, and I knew I had done the right thing. They had lost their power. And I had taken back mine.